choose any position that you want to. We're going to come to a breathing practice at some point while you're lying down. We're not going to worry too much about kind of where arms and so on go. So absolutely fine to have your legs up on a chair, on the sofa, on the bed, legs on a bolster, anything at all that suits you to find comfort. It's always a slightly different experience when you practice pranayama or a breathing practice lying down, just because of how your body is in relationship to the floor and to gravity. Pranayama obviously traditionally would be practiced from a sitting position, but sometimes it's really quite nice to have a go at something lying down. Different experience for your back and for your pelvis and for your hips, because often we want to come to a cross-leg sitting position to do pranayama. So settling yourself, easing onto your mat, into your comfy position, wherever that is. And wherever that comfy position is, check that it really is truly comfy, particularly into your lower back. So if you've got your legs resting on something, so possibly a bolster or up onto a chair, check that your lower back feels okay. And if you feel anything at all, anything that's just got a little bit of a niggle or slightly less than comfy, push your legs into whatever they're supported on, lift your pelvis slightly and tilt your pelvis and lower yourself back down to the floor, lower back first. And that will make your lower back feel a little bit longer. And as you do that, think about moving it away from your upper body. So if that's not possible based on where you are, the other way to think about doing it is to come up onto your forearms, so lifting your upper body a touch, tilting your pelvis, and then as you lower yourself down, is lower your ribs away from your pelvis as you settle. And then notice arms. So it's a little bit of a play about really with where your arms go. So some schools of yoga are quite insistent that you lie on the floor with your arms rotated quite a long way so that your palms face the ceiling. But actually by rotating your arms outwards so that your palms face the ceiling, what that might do is as it brings your shoulder blades towards one another, it might actually put a deeper curve into your lower back. So possibly where you want to have your arms is in the place where your shoulder blades feel the flattest against the floor. For most of us, that will be with our arms in a position that our palms of our hands just very naturally face the side of our body. And wherever they are distance-wise from the body is entirely up to you. So, you can have your arms above your head, out to angel. They can be anywhere at all. You can have your hands resting on your tummy, as long as you feel comfy. So perhaps you have a couple of those big sighing out breaths if you haven't already. And notice with each out breath that you can encourage the body to feel heavier and heavier. And if you become aware of the shape that you're making in the mat, in the floor underneath you, as you breathe out and you begin to feel heavier and heavier, picturing that shape that you're making gets bigger. It's as if you're kind of melting down into the floor. Noticing your breath. And perhaps you're feeling your breath quite high up under your collarbone, so beginning to soften and slow the breath a little bit. So we notice that the in and the out breath creates some movement in the ribs, just being aware of it. And then slowing the breath a little bit more, it becomes a little bit longer feeling. When it becomes longer, we're not trying to suck more air in, so we're not trying to sort of almost exaggerate that in and out breath. We're allowing the same amount of air to come in and out of the body. It just moves in and out at a slower pace. And taking the breath right the way to the bottom part of your lungs, encouraging that sensation that you breathe into your abdomen. And then noticing anything that you're holding on to, excuse me, anything at all around your pelvis, your abdomen, that kind of area. Maybe it takes a little while to let all your abdominal muscles soften so that you can breathe deeply. So we establish our soft, easy, resting breath. At a count of 4, breathing in for 4, breathing out for 4. Slowing the breath a little more, breathing in for 6, breathing out for 6. And know that whenever I'm talking about an in and out breath of 6, that it's okay to stay with your soft, easy resting breath count of 4. We simply notice maybe on other days the breath will slow to a count of 6, some days it won't. Staying with the right count for you this evening. Seeing how it feels to breathe in and out for a count of 6. And we use the focus of counting the breath to simply notice what's going on in the mind. So when it gets really distracted really quickly, we just notice that. We notice that our mind is very, very busy. We ask it to come back and focus on our in and out breath count of 6. And each time the mind wanders, we ask it to come back and focus on the breath. as you breathe in and as you breathe out for your count of 6. Notice at the end of each breath, you come to that little space, that gap between the breath where no breath is happening. But you can just hover and sort of hang out in that little space for a moment, and then the breath wants to happen. Breathing in for 6, being in that space, just noticing, being calm, being still in that space, and breathing out. At the end of your out breath, being in that space. Again, noticing calm and stillness. And then breathing in. And each time you come into that space, just hover in there for a little while to see how it feels. That moment in time of stillness where no breath is happening. And we can begin to add a count to that space. So breathing in for 6. Being in the space after the in-breath, lungs full for a count of 3. Breathing out for a count of 6. And being in that space at the end of the out-breath, lungs empty for a count of 3. 6, 3, 6, 3. If you're working with an in and out count of 4, then you're being in that space between the in and out breath for a count of 2. After your next out breath, when you're in that little space at the end of your out breath, making that your last one with the focus on the space. So breathing in for 6, breathing out for 6. After your next out breath, releasing your count. Allow your focus to move from your breath to your body, noticing how it feels. Checking in with how your lower back feels, how your shoulders, your neck, your arms, your legs, ankles, hips, how's everything feeling this evening? Gentle reminder to move in the right way for you this evening. So simply exploring how your body wants to be. So bring a little bit of energy back to your body, wiggling fingers and toes, easing around. You might hug your knees to your chest if your legs are up, supported by something. And just be aware of what's around you and manoeuvre yourself so that you can still lie on your back but with your knees bent, feet flat to the floor, and be able to use the floor with your feet pushing down into the floor. So coming to that same position, lying on your back, knees bent and feet flat to the floor rather than legs up supported anywhere. So check in that you've got your ankles, your knees and your ball and socket joints the same width apart. Check in that you've got your feet close enough to your bottom that when you push your feet into the floor, you feel the whole of the surface of your feet. If your feet are quite a long way from your bottom, when you push your feet into the floor, you'll just feel your heels. So you want to be able to feel the balls of your feet as well. So a gentle connection with the floor, with your feet. So you're just activating that connection and you've got a little bit of work into your thighs. And start to tilt your pelvis. So a lot of you know this is the one with the clock face with a little marble, and you're going to roll the marble between the 12 and the 6. So number 12 is up by your tummy button, number 6 is down by your pubic bone. The marble just rolls straight between the 12 and the 6. It's up and down on the clock face. We can coordinate the breath as well. So as you breathe out, roll the marble to 12. Your lower back pushes into the floor. As you breathe in, tilt the pelvis the other way. You roll the marble to 6, and it's when you make a little tunnel, kind of hollow shape in your lower back. So explore how it feels and how everything wants to move. Super. Next time you roll that marble to 12, send it round to the 3, down to the 6, round to the 9, back up to the 12. Push your feet into the floor just a little bit so that you keep that action happening just in your pelvis. It's really super tempting to move the knees a lot around in space to help you feel like the pelvis moves, but let's push the feet into the floor and move the pelvis. Lovely. Now circle back the other way round the clock face, like you're rolling that marble around a little groove that's around the edge of the clock face. Super. And then bring the marble back to going between the 12 and the 6. Just check that your feet are pushing into the floor, breathing out, pushing the lower back into the floor, breathing in, the lower back lifts from the floor a little bit. But your pelvis stays connected as you rock. Keep pushing the feet into the floor a little bit more. As you breathe out and push your lower back into the floor, push your feet and then lift your bottom up into the air. And as you start to breathe in, lowering your bottom back down, tilting the pelvis like you're rolling the marble to 6, then roll it to 12, push your lower back into the floor, push your feet into the floor, lift the pelvis up, and as you want to breathe in, roll the spine back down, the pelvis comes down, tilt it a little bit. So keeping that action going with the breath. Encouraging the breath to be soft, and slow, and for this movement to be really quite slow and fluid, and using your feet pushing into the floor to help lift you up so that we get a little bit of strength into the thighs. Next time you lift your pelvis up, lift it up and hold. Push your feet into the floor and direct your kneecaps parallel in front of you rather than your kneecaps to the corners of your mat. Super, and then bring your pelvis all the way back down and hug your knees to your chest and have a little rock. Brilliant. So just while you have a little rock with your knees up to your chest, check that you've got some space to take your arms above your head to the floor. And shuffle yourself about if you haven't. You're going to lie on the floor on your back, knees bent, feet flat to the floor. Arms in any comfy position where you want them to be, and with your next out breath, draw your right knee to your chest. In breath, push the sole of the foot to the ceiling. Out breath, knee to the chest. In breath, foot to the floor. So arms are comfy down on the floor. Breathe out, left knee into the chest. Breathe in, foot to the ceiling. Breathe out, knee to the chest. Breathe in, foot to the floor. And keep going, one side to the other. Whenever you breathe out, you bring your knee to your chest. Whenever you breathe in, you follow it, either with a foot to the ceiling or a foot to the floor, depending on where you are in that rhythm. Super. So keeping that rhythm going, what I'd like you to do now is just notice your pelvis. When your feet are on the floor, notice the connection you naturally have with the back of the pelvis. As you draw your knee to your chest, notice that the relationship with the pelvis and the floor might change. So keep the pelvis a little bit still. Use your tummy muscles, pelvic floor muscles, to not let the pelvis rock around in space as you move your legs around in space. Super. Next time your left foot comes to the floor, and you then breathe out, bring both knees towards your chest, both feet up to the ceiling. Both knees to the chest, both feet to the floor. Working on keeping that relationship of the back of the pelvis as it touches the floor the same, whatever your legs are doing. So really slowing the movement down, slowing the breath down, super focus on that movement, that you keep the legs moving and the pelvis doesn't rock about too much. Particularly the rocking of the pelvis as you bring your feet to the floor. That's the one I'm most interested in, so you don't overarch into your back. Super. So we're going to add arms. The arms only move on an in-breath. So an out-breath, you bring your knees to your chest. An in-breath, you push your feet to the ceiling and you float your arms above your head to the floor. On an out-breath, knees to the chest. And on an in-breath, your feet and your arms return to their start position. Out-breath, knees to the chest. In-breath, arms and legs move. Out-breath, knees to the chest. In-breath, arms and legs move. So you get that coordinated movement happening with the breath and noticing the relationship of your pelvis to the floor, particularly with that last in-breath as you bring your feet down to the floor. Fantastic. Notice as well that you draw both knees together towards you and you put both feet to the floor together. One always wants to lead because that side of your body is just a little bit stronger. Simply noticing it helps us be aware of where our strength is, and then we can develop strength on the other side as well. Next time your feet come down to the floor and your arms come down by your side, stretch your legs long down your mat, take your arms above your head and have a little stretch out and a wiggle. Brilliant. And then ease yourself up to sitting. So when you come up to sitting, we've got our legs out long. Just give them a little bit of a flop about to ease into that ball and socket joint. And then hug up with the right knee. Take hold of the foot with the left hand and have a little bit of cello playing action. Super. So when you're playing your cello, it's a bit tempting to kind of hunch forward, so be sitting tall. Absolutely fine to use the hand to help you sit tall, and then to notice whether or not you need it, because then you know that you're also working into muscles to sit yourself tall. Fold that right leg round to the side, sole of the left foot to the right thigh. So just as a quick reminder, the right foot can be anywhere where it wants to be, whatever's comfy for your knee, and the action is as if you're taking the right buttock from the floor and sitting it back down. This might not be a very big movement, it doesn't have to be. It needs to be whatever kind of movement you've got. If it's quite tight, sit out to the side, lean, and have a little wiggle, and as it frees up, then think about sitting a little bit more and a little bit more until everything feels okay and a bit easier to sit more upright. So what you've got going on with your right leg at the moment is an inward rotation and a bit of movement. We've got some external rotation in the other leg, but we're not really moving it very much. So let's wiggle out those legs. Hug up with the right knee again. Stay with the right side. Hold on to the foot. And then this one, the cello one, is moving external rotation with your right ball and socket joint. Super. And then let's try with the other side. So we hug the knee up, take hold of the foot with the right hand, have a little bit of cello play. Again, think sitting tall. Use the hand to do that, then notice whether or not you need that arm there. Then let's fold the leg round, sole of the right foot to that thigh. Maybe lean a little bit to get some freedom. Just be aware that if things are rocking with this leg, mostly what you're probably doing is isn't necessarily focusing on this joint, so be really super aware of that. If the shoulders are moving a lot, it feels like something's happening, but it isn't happening here. So tiny movements, the amount of movement doesn't matter, just focusing on it being here. Brilliant. And then let's unravel the legs. Come back with that left leg focus to a bit of cello, sitting tall. Lovely. So part of getting a little bit of movement into, let's take the legs long, give them a wiggle. Part of getting some movement as well into our hips is freeing up some of the muscles around the side of the body. So come to a comfy, either cross-leg sitting position if that's fine for you, or legs out if sitting cross-legged is not where you want to be this evening. Really doesn't matter where we go. So take your right arm behind your back, wiggle your left fingers out to the side and have a gentle side bend. And then wiggle back. Swap arms and wander your fingers out to the other side. So it is a little bit tempting to put quite a lot of weight into their fingers because we want to go further and further, but allow them just to wiggle out to get a gauge of where you're going and wiggle back. Because the more we lean into the hand, the more likely it is that that side of the pelvis is simply lifting and we're not really side bending into the spine. So one more to each side, just to explore and see what the side bending action is like at the moment, and to get that length down the side of the body. Brilliant. And then have a bit of a roll into your shoulders. Take your arms out to the side, one palm up, one palm down, and roll the palms of the hands 360 degrees to get that movement into your shoulders. Super. And then bring your arms down and give them a bit of a roll. So if you stay sitting, just because I know you can see the screen from there, I just want to show you something. A lot of you know the, I've come too far forward, sorry, it might be off the screen. A lot of you know the pendulum swing. So the place where you get your knee above your ball and socket joint is roughly with your arms straight and your fingers on your kneecap. You don't have to keep your arm here, but that's roughly where your knee wants to be. And then a little bit of a swing. So just while you're watching, I want to show you something else. We'll then take hold of the foot, and I want you to draw all sorts of graffiti with your imaginary kneecap crayon all over the place. It doesn't matter where it goes. It can go to the floor all around. And then you're going to bring the foot into the groin, the front of the pelvis here, and keep that movement happening. Then take the other foot and tuck it under your bottom and let your legs come down. If you want to, if this all feels okay here, this is where you then come up to sitting and you're in half lotus. Okay? You'll get part way up. If you've got tight hips, you'll get part way up. What I don't want you to do is shove, because you'll hurt something and you're probably going to hurt your knee. Okay? So stay lying down and just keep wiggling. Your body loves to wiggle. Wiggling into joints just lubricates and gets everything feeling better. So lie yourself on your back, and then if you bring your right knee up, hovering above your ball and socket joint, roughly where your tips of your fingers are if your arms straight, let your lower leg absolutely be a dead weight. Hang your lower leg and then swing it from side to side like a pendulum. And feel that wonderful gliding in your ball and socket joint. Fantastic. Then drop the knee towards your shoulder and glide again. Lower leg really, really floppy. Then see what it feels like to take hold of the foot with the left hand. So if you can get hold of your foot, brilliant. If you can't get hold of your foot, keep your pendulum swing going. If you can get hold of your foot, turn your kneecap into a crayon, not your toes. Encourage your foot to come towards the groin and keep the kneecap moving around, graffitiing all over the room that you're in. And it's wonderful because it's imaginary graffiti, so you can write whatever you want on your walls. Really give it a good old wiggle about with that kneecap. Lead the movement with the kneecap. Brilliant. So you're going to hug that right foot in towards your left groin and hold on to your right foot with your left hand. You're going to tuck your left foot underneath your right buttock, holding onto it with your right hand, and let your left and right leg lower down towards the floor. Be careful with your lower back. If everything feels okay, you could use your arms to come up to sitting, and you end up in a half lotus. But know that this is no good for dodgy knees and you need to be careful. So we end up a little bit pretzel-like, and we can wiggle about and just ease here for a moment to see what it feels like, and then unravel and have a go to the other side. So we're lying down on our backs. So the first position for your knee is where your fingertips reach to with your arms straight. Let your lower leg be an absolute dead weight and swing your foot from side to side, this pendulum swing. Wonderful gliding action. Don't be in a rush to keep moving because this leg's not had much warm up yet. So let it swing about and glide. Then drop the kneecap towards the shoulder, which just changes where the ball sits in its socket. Glide about there. And then experiment. Can you get your right foot held by your left hand? Your left foot even, with your right hand. Sorry, I'm looking at you the other way around. Brilliant. So you're turning your left kneecap into a crayon and graffiti as much of the room as you can. All over the place. Lead the movement with the kneecap. Make loads and loads of messy graffiti all over the place. Encourage the left foot to nestle into the right groin. Hold on to that foot with the right hand, and then tuck your right foot under your left buttock and hold on to your foot with your left hand. And let your legs fold down towards the floor in that cross-legged position, and see what it feels like if you want to come up to sitting. So you end up with your left foot resting. Brilliant. So you have a wiggle and then ease about and notice. And then release and give things a bit more of a wiggle. So, sorry, just grabbing a strap. You don't need a strap, I just want you to see the line. So imagine this is in front of my mat. So you can use any line that you want, edge of your mat, pattern of your carpet, you know, anything at all. What I'm after you doing is when you come to a cross leg sitting, can you see that? No, can you? I think you can. So when you're sitting, what I'm after you doing is getting your shin parallel to whatever that line is that you're using as a visual aid, okay? And then you're going to bring your other foot onto that knee and just let things settle. And sit tall, and then ease yourself forwards if your body wants you to. So what you end up with is your two shins absolutely stacked on top of one another, because it's completely different to having your legs folded like this, because you get this kind of W sort of shape when you sit cross-legged. It's entirely different to having your shins completely on top of one another, parallel in front of you. And maybe you lean forward and you use your arms to move your ball and socket joints. Maybe this is what's going on in your hips, okay? It's absolutely fine. So we just sit back and support and ease the legs down to wherever they want to go. If they're way up in the air, just let them soften. Close your eyes, use your sighing out breath, let it soften. If you've got ball and socket joints that are really super happy to move, you can sit up, you can lean forwards, and you can bring a leg on top of the other one. And then unravel, give everything a wobble and flop about, and then go to the other side. So the other leg is the one that's parallel shin to that line. Bring the foot onto that knee and ease. But only to wherever it feels okay. So as soon as you reach that kind of point of it's not going to go any further in my ball and socket joint, where you're going to force it to feel something is potentially in your knee. Your knee's going to give way before your ball and socket joint gives way, and your knees really don't want to give way because, you know, you need them. Well, you need your ball and socket joints as well, but you really need your knees. So we just soften and ease, close the eyes, let things happen. It's wonderful, wonderful kind of weird sense of easing and softening into your ball and socket joints, which get so tight. Particularly working from home, being at home a lot, and perhaps padding around in a lot of flip-floppy type of sloppy, slippery type of things where your toes are gripping. Everything gets a lot tighter in your legs. Cool. So we can unravel and bring the legs out and give them a wiggle. And we're going to come up to standing. So notice how you get there, okay? It's absolutely fine to come onto your knees, bring a foot through, push and come up, okay? Use the furniture around you. So we use what we need and then we think about whether we really need what we think we need to come up to standing, but we come up without bumping into things. Okay, bring yourself to mountain pose. And once you arrive there, close your eyes. And with a long, soft out breath, let your shoulders settle away from your ears, let your arms feel heavy. And notice with your eyes closed that you feel like your body is swaying. And it's absolutely fine. It's tiny movements when you're swaying with your eyes closed. But just notice it. Be soft, be still, be calm, be easy with that little bit of swaying action. It's not an intentional sway, it's just a little bit of movement of your body. And notice you don't fall over because your muscles are making those tiny, rapid, super rapid connections with your brain to keep you upright. Notice the soles of your feet. So pour the weight into your left foot, into your left leg. Come up onto the ball of the right foot, keeping the eyes closed. Pouring as much weight as you can into your left foot, into your left leg, to find a place with the ball of your right foot resting on the floor, where that ball is as light as you can make it. Knowing that it's absolutely fine to put the ball of the foot down again. So we're simply noticing how much weight we can pour down into the left leg, how light we can make the right leg with our eyes closed. Find stillness in the rest of your body. So the aim isn't to get the foot off the floor, The aim is to find as much comfort and stillness in the whole of the rest of the body that it's completely unengaged, as in not finding tension and tightness, because we found this lovely still place to be standing on one leg with a very light touch of the right foot. Brilliant. Put the whole of the right foot back down onto the floor, eyes are closed, feeling for what you're doing. Pull the weight into your right leg, into your right foot, come up onto the ball of the left foot. Be careful not to lock the knee, have it a little bit soft. And again, notice that softness all through your body, calm, still, as you pull more and more weight into your right leg, and see how light you can make the ball of your left foot. And the left foot doesn't leave the floor, it stays in contact, but there might be a feather lightness. Lovely. And then pop the left foot down, find your mountain pose, eyes closed, stillness. Super. And then gently open your eyes. And as you open your eyes, find a point ahead of you to fix your soft gaze. Pour the weight into your left foot, your left leg, come up onto the ball of your right foot. Find that gaze point straight ahead of you. So just pivot a little bit on your right foot and take your right knee out to the right a little bit. And lower your right foot on top of your left. So the heel of the left foot, the arch maybe is resting, of the right foot is resting on the left. And the ball of the right foot resting on the floor, body is soft. Bring your hands to Anjali Mudra. Tiny bit of pressure between each hand helps to steady the body. Perhaps you gently take the arms up above the head, palms of the hands touching. Simply to notice. Maybe you take the arms apart in space if you want to. Bring the palms back together. And lower the hands back down. So come up onto the ball of the right foot, pivot on that ball and pop the foot back down. Let's do the same to the other side. So pull the weight into your right leg. As you pull the weight into your right leg, just pour it down. Try not to let the hip nudge out to the right. So you don't move from your mountain pose other than your left knee bending a little bit to come up onto the ball of the left foot. If you then take the left knee out to the left and pivot on the left foot on the ball, you can lower the left foot on top of the right. It might be the heel, the arch of the foot, wherever it wants to go. Breathing, settling the body, gaze spot. Somewhere straight ahead of you. Take the arms up if you want to. If moving the arms makes everything wobble and become tight and tense, maybe you don't. Maybe you take the arms apart in space if you want to. And then bring your hands back to the heart center. And coming up onto the ball of the left foot, pivoting and bringing the foot down. Pull the weight into your left foot, your left leg, come up onto the ball of your right. Find that focal spot, that gaze spot, blurry eyes. So you're zoning everything else around you out and zoning into that sense of stillness and ease in your standing position. So we find the ball of the right foot, we turn the knee out to the right. We can rest the right foot on the left foot. We might bring the sole of the right foot and the arch of the right foot to just curve around the calf muscle of the left leg. Be super aware you don't want to be on your knee, but on your calf muscle. And simply noticing. Maybe you move your arms, maybe you don't. So tree isn't about moving your arms, a balance isn't about doing anything particular other than enjoying that wonderful sense of stillness and calm. Wherever you find it, it's the right place for you. Super. And gently bringing the right foot back so you find your mountain pose. Ready to pull the weight into your right leg. Come up onto the ball of the left. Maybe you turn the left knee out and settle the foot onto the right foot. Maybe this is the right place for you. Maybe you bring the sole of the left foot, that lovely curve of the arch of the foot, onto the lovely curve of the calf muscle. Taking that moment to notice the wonderful sense of stillness and ease. Steadying yourself with your breath. Beautiful. And then lowering your left foot to the floor to find mountain pose. So the next part involves a little bit more explanation, and we lose a little bit of our kind of focus really and our stillness. So maybe just watch as much or as little as you feel you need to. If you want to, you can bring the foot and rest it on the thigh. If it slides to the knee, then please take it to the calf muscle. The way to keep the foot onto the thigh isn't about sticky feet and sticky clothing. It's about pushing the sole of the right foot into the left thigh. Clench your left buttock, which will push your left inner thigh into the sole of your foot. So the foot pushing into the thigh pushing into the foot is what will hold the leg in this position. It's always great to use a wall at this point. It's always great to put your foot simply onto your calf, because this is a big squish for knees. It's a big opening for ball and socket joints. Enjoy the sense of stillness and calm that come with your balance, wherever your leg is. And notice as you hold it, you can bring a little more stillness into your body. Notice where the tightness is and let it soften. And then try the other side. Might be completely different on the other side. Depends on your ball and socket joint. Watch out for using the wall. For me, I think, because if you use an arm, you tend to lean a little bit. if you use the wall just behind you, you then know that wherever you go when you wobble is just an inch back to lean against the wall, and you can put your arms and your hands flat against the wall, but you can also hover yourself a little bit from the wall and then change position with your hands if you want to. So the wall becomes this helpful friend just behind us. Brilliant. And then ease yourself out. So there is one last place if anybody wants to have a play around for your legs. So just at the front here, you've got this little hollow. Okay, there's a little bit of a hollow here that you could pop a foot into. So this is what it looks very similar to the position that you were in on the floor, only just with one leg. So you're going to bring the foot up and lift it higher than the groin and then turn it outwards and let it settle. You probably need to bend your knee a little bit to get the foot to stay there, but then you can straighten up and you can have the foot. So it's less tricky in this joint here, but potentially a little bit more tricky in the ankle and the knee. Okay, so this is a place to play about with if you want to. Sometimes easier than this one here. But it depends. It depends on ankles, knees, ball and socket joints. If you're leaning against the wall, my next instruction is one not to follow. If you're standing in space with your leg here and you wish to fold forwards and take yourself to a forward bend on one leg and back up, then maybe do that. Be super careful with balance and where you're reaching to. And then try the other side when you're ready to. Always absolutely brilliant to be in that very first stage, enjoying your tree and your stillness. You might have your foot on your calf muscle. Notice the difference from one side to the other. It's quite remarkable. So when you've done yours, don't rush at all. Take your time. You're in your own space. We do that little feet apart, bend the knees, stick the bottom out, swish your tail feathers. You might then dangle and have a little swing about. And then bring yourself down to the floor, to cat. Have a little bit of an ease about in cat with your back. And then take yourself to your comfy relaxation position, which could be legs up the wall, legs on a chair, legs on a bed, back of the knees on your bolster, anywhere at all. Come to your comfy relaxation position, wherever that is. Take your time to settle, find comfort, find all the bits and bobs that you need for your relaxation. So know that at the end of the class, when I've stopped talking, and you want to stay there, you can just lift an arm and have a little wave and stay in relaxation. It's absolutely fine. You don't even have to lift the arm, because if you're there having your relaxation and staying for a little bit longer at home, that's absolutely fine. It's your time. So let the breath settle. Use your out breath to get the body feeling heavy, and encourage your breath to be all the way down into your abdomen. Be aware of your out breath. Just for a short while, we're going to focus on our out breath, counting your out breath backwards from 20. Each out breath, you count backwards from 20. And we don't need to be concerned about getting to 0. We don't need to be concerned about the need to make it work or anything. Simply focusing your attention on your out breath and counting backwards from 20. After your next out breath, release your count and simply be in your relaxation position. Enjoy the stillness for another few minutes until you hear the sound of my voice again. Allow your focus to return to yourself. Noticing your physical body on your mat, on your floor. Be aware of the supports that you have underneath you, the space you have around you. Very gently and carefully easing yourself back.